It was so special being able to bring the two actors back from the George Pal, Byron Haskin 1953 War of the Worlds. And I was a big fan of Gene Barry when I worked with him. I think the second or third thing I ever directed in my life was this Name of the Game episode starring Gene Barry. And it was a science fiction episode, a real departure from the normal series. And I worked with Gene on that. And so I think Gene was rather surprised to get a call from me saying, hey, can you come back and just do a cameo, because I'm not really remaking your 1953 War of the Worlds, but there are many homages to that original film in my updated version of the H.G. Wells book, and can you come in with Ann Robinson and do a quick cameo? And he was happy to do it, and Ann was thrilled as well.
Meteor is either very light, which is unheard of, or else it's hollow somehow. If it were heavy and solid, it would have made a tremendous crater when it landed.
As I look back at my original performance in War of the Worlds, I was new in the motion picture industry. I had come from the Broadway theater, and I was under contract to Paramount Pictures. I think I had done one movie for them, and they said, we want Gene Barry to do the role in War of the Worlds. It was a wow, you know what I mean? And so I just went into it and did it, and I've lived with it for 50-some-odd years since, and pleased. And now here I am commemorating that fact, plus the fact that Steven Spielberg is doing War of the Worlds. It's a big moment in my life, so here I am.
You can't imagine how overwhelmed I was when I found out that he wanted me to be in his movie. I just thought it was thrilling. Everybody had always asked me, I think you'll have a cameo, do you think you'll be in it? And I said, I don't know, but keep our fingers crossed, and sure enough, my wish came true.
Ann Robinson, she was so divine. First of all, she came to her fitting with the ring that she'd been given by her dad when she started filming the original War of the Worlds. And then she told me that Edith Head, who designed the film's costumes, who's the greatest costume designer ever, she never met her. And that she'd gone out shopping to May and Company with an assistant, and they bought 2 suits, and those suits serviced the whole film. So I thought it was just incredibly amusing. We were just manufacturing thousands of costumes, where they made do with just 2.
I was quite young, had never read the novel. I was a contract player. Gene Barry was also a contract player, but he was in a much higher category than I was at the time. And to be able to be chosen by George Pal, whom I'd grown up with, watching the Puppetoons, was quite a thrill. I mean, Destination Moon and When Worlds Collide and everything else he'd ever made. I mean, he was a brilliant, brilliant artist, and it was a thrill. I knew it was going to be a fabulous movie. And Byron Haskin was a lovely director, lovely man. He had been a special effects person, I do believe, and that's why he was chosen to be director. And I'm sure George Pal, his influence is there quite heavily. And also, I imagine Cecil B. DeMille, because he owned it in the first place. He owned the rights to War of the Worlds. And because of Cecil B. DeMille's fondness to George Pal, he allowed him to do it.
I was a kid living outside of Los Angeles. I was probably about 10 or 12, and I'd seen the movie and thought it was amazing, and I was wondering how this movie, War of the Worlds, was made. And my mother knew an electrician who had worked at Paramount Studios, so I called him up one night, and he had worked on the movie, years before, and talked to me about it and everything, and it was quite a connection to understand that somebody had actually worked on it, and he talked about the war machines and the Martian character in it, and the shooting of it, that just made it seem all very tangible, that you could actually make a movie like that.
Well, after we were finished filming, and I was under contract at the studio, so I was able to stick around and watch everything, and on stage 18, they had all these marvelous models built, and they were enormous. They were all made of copper, and they were over 1 meter wide, floating silently across the soundstage, all 3 of them. Some man was sitting there with levers, controlling them all. And they would light up with the green lights coming out of the tips. And the art director, he's the one who thought of the Cobra head. He said he saw a Zenith record player one time as it moved ominously across the records with the hood on top of it, disguising the needle. He said that looked very devastatingly frightening. So he put that in as the Cobra head. It wasn't designed after a cobra. It was designed after a Zenith record player.
When I first got to meet Ann, we began talking. I said, Ann, you know, I did a real homage to you. I don't know if you realize this, but did you see E.T.? She said, of course, darling. And I said, well, remember the scene in E.T. where Elliot's looking out the window, he feels something strange in his heart because he's kind of feeling E.T.'s feelings, and suddenly E.T.'s hand comes in and just rests itself on Elliot's left shoulder. And I said, that was you and the Martian in War of the Worlds.
Charlie Gomorrah, he and his daughter made that Martian the night before. They first had a much taller one, and George Pell said, no, it's far too large. Go back and make another one. We have to shoot tomorrow. So he and his daughter, who was only 12 at the time, they worked all night long on this. But they didn't have time to make the arms fit the size of the new body. So that's why the Martian arms in the motion picture are so extremely long.
Across the gulf of space on the planet Mars, intellects vast and cool and unsympathetic regarded our Earth with envious eyes, slowly and surely drawing their plans against us.
So many people that I speak to who have studied the film, studied the book, they see far more into this movie than I did growing up watching it. There were so many nuances that I didn't understand at the time, that with maturity and with reading the book and other people's discussions, you begin to realize what he really had in mind, all the hidden meanings.
But they seem to murder everything that moves.
If they're mortal, they must have mortal weaknesses. They'll be stopped.
At the time, though, I looked at it as a great job, if you know what I mean. As a young actor, I thought, wow. And I did it, and I was tremendously involved and pleased. And Steven is an outstanding director, and I've known him for many years. And I am pleased that I'm involved on this version. It's a redo of my life, in a sense, you know, a recap.
Today, I am shooting the last scene of the movie, which is going to be thrilling, because all my friends are going to sit there all through the movie and wonder where Ann is, and she'll pop up at the very end.
And cut, beautiful. One more time, very nice. One more time. Resetting.